You try, yep.
There we go. Perfect. Okay.
Well, there we go. So I got Serena here. We're in the Zoom here. We're just doing a little bit of a meeting. Just talking about what's unraveling across all the provinces and all the republics and around the world, to be honest with you. I see a lot of great people out there, and I see amazing people that are fighting to educate, to make a difference in their local communities. And Serena's been on the same quest to show people a different path in life, and the path is them. And I'm not religious. I've never been religious. I studied it. I'm spiritual, and I believe that we are the true people. You can call us men or women, but there's no difference between me and you and anybody else. We're all equal playing ground. They have a pyramid like this for years. They want to put a pyramid upside down. No, we want a level playing field that we're all equal and we work together. These have been ripped apart from us, and we understand the mass genocide that went on in North America. We understand the mass genocide that went on in Europe too. All the clans, the Vikings were destroyed. All the great men and women that were mass murdered in the continent of Africa. Our history is full of lies and deceit. It was written by them, and we're starting to learn that now a lot more clearer. The Indian Act has enslaved everybody in they call the originals in the continent of North America, and the BNA Act has enslaved all the Canadians. These acts and statutes weren't created by you. They're created by these people to maintain their system against you. And my message has always been clear. It's you that's the truth, that you are the government, and you've always been the government. So I'm gonna let the floor go to Serena. She has some, some of her beliefs and what she's striving for, which is important because her message is clear. I believe in her message, and I think when you hear it, you're going to understand where she's coming from, and you're going to take that message, maybe comprehend it a little bit further. So, Serena, the floor is yours, young lady.
Well, thank you, Dallas. It's an honor to be here. Thank you for this invitation and this conversation. You and I have had a couple little conversations here and there over time. But today it was actually perfect timing. I didn't get to tell you this. I was literally just listening to a couple different conversations of people talking about politics and talking about the system. And then you called. And so you caught me right in a moment of passion, if you will, where I was thinking, these constructs that we call the government or our government, these are just constructs of men and women. They're constructs. They don't actually govern us. And I hear you talk about this, and where do I come from? And this is, maybe I need to backtrack a little bit. Where do I come from? Who am I? I'm Cree. That's what I am. I'm a Cree woman. My mom is Cree and my dad was Palestinian. And I am a spiritual person. I've always seen from this lens. I'm not a religious person. I'm a spiritual person. And I've seen from this lens where I feel things very deeply. And I have insight into things and that are shown to me or gifted to me, if you will. My voice is one of those gifts. My voice was forged through my life, but it was honed during this time. And I have no doubt that it was honed for this purpose. The things I see and feel are the things that I hear people like you talking about, even though I'm not educated in it. There are things I hear the clan mothers talking about, even though I'm not educated in it. I'm somebody who feels and sees and feels truth very deeply, if you will, sacred and natural truths. And so when we look at our government system, these are just constructs of men and women. They're a cage built around us. They're ideologies built around us. And we give them so much power. But they're just constructs. And they're perverted constructs that go against what is natural and sacred law. And what I see people doing that is so troubling to me today is that I see that they want to either go into this system operating from these constructs that are already perverted. So when you step in, you're stepping into something that's already corrupted and perverted, and you're trying to operate from a perverted, corrupted system. It will taint whatever you bring in it. I believe people have good intentions, but many of them are bought out and sold. Many are conditioned to these systems to think that these systems have power when they don't have power. These systems are constructs of men and women. We have the power. Sacredness, natural law has the power. That is the only true power. And then what I see people do is then so many people have been calling me. Are you going to run for politics? Will you run as an independent? Will you run under conservative? Will you run under PPC? Will you run under a First Nations party? And I keep saying this doesn't feel right in my being. I am not a politician. And I've been looking at what is the difference between somebody who is a leader, and even that I have an aversion to that word, because we are all meant to lead ourselves. We all have discernment. We all have capabilities. We all have experiences that have gifted us the knowledge that we need to make decisions and choices for ourselves and our families and our communities. But we are conditioned and broken down so that we think we don't have those capabilities. So we continually hand over our power to these constructs that are meant to govern us. They're cages. They're false.
I agree.
But when it comes, absolutely. And when it comes down to it, and you look and you see, why would I run as a politician? A politician has self-aspirations. Self-aspirations is about the
Can I
ego.
pause it for a sec there? Just 1 second. This is very important. So the way I look at it is this: there's no lawful agreement between me and this person I'm gonna position into to speak for me, to represent me. When you have no accountability, it's a failure. And this is why it's so important that people need to have an agreement. Yeah, I want this person to manage our affairs. He's an administrator or whatever, but he has no authority. He just administers what we tell him to do. He works for us. The system they've created is that they put these people as hierarchy, idolize them without accountability. And, I've watched which I call the Corporation of Canada and the Corporation of the United States, where these individuals are selected. They get in there, they all talk the talk, but as soon as they get in there, they go along with whatever the globalists want them to do. And
But that's what I'm talking about.
Yes.
That's what I'm addressing, is that because what we build on, that's what I'm walking towards right now. It's because you're operating from a perverted system. So therefore it will pervert every intention you have. Not only that, I see that happening from good men and women or people with intentions to help, even in this movement. They step forward, but they use these old constructs that have been perverted and corrupted and go against natural and sacred law in every way. And we try to either say we're going to infiltrate or become a part of and make the choices, the changes within the system. Some say that they're going to build their own system. And then there are those who say that we already have the power. No matter what avenue they're taking, at the core, the foundation that they build it on, if it is perverted, it will taint everything they build. If our constructs right here in our mind are perverted and corrupted, our programming, our conditioning, because we are so conditioned to this reality that we are sold, but this reality is just a construct of men and women. Globalization is a construct. Government is a construct. We built these as men and women. We build them, we run them, we subscribe to them, we perpetuate them, we carry them on. But they're false in every way, because we are what is sacred. What is sacred is what works through us. And we continually, we talk about things like colonization. And I love what you said at the very beginning. When you talk about the clans and the tribes in Europe and everywhere else, I talk about it as using the words colonization. But colonization does not belong to a skin color or a group of people. We are all colonized people, because it's an interruption of what is natural and sacred. It isn't, and it is to impose these perversions into our lens and our concepts of our own conditioning, of how we then interact in the world. So the thing I see continually, even in this movement, with many people I've worked with, they come at it from the same lack of honor and integrity that these systems are built on. They have good intentions, but if you don't at the core of it have integrity and honor, you will taint everything you touch and build. If you have self-aspirations, you will taint and corrupt everything you build. And that's why politicians fail. They are not the voices of the people. They are not honoring the contracts. They're trying to build towards their own self aspirations of building a name, climbing in the system. They may have walked in there with true intentions, but because their minds are corrupted with conditioning and programming, they're using a system that is perverted and corrupted. Everything they build and touch will be perverted and corrupted.
I agree 100%. This is why my quest has been for so many years. I remember, back in the 80s when I came public with everything, right? And I said, what do I do? If I don't speak now and be a coward, I'll watch the damnation of our nations, right? And I felt it was very important to speak the truth back then. And I got condemned. I got blackballed. I got destroyed. My career got destroyed. I did some time in jail. They threw me in a hospital, said I was I was nuts. And then the psychiatrist said that, I should be writing books and movies because I got better movies than Steven Spielberg, he said to me. Not Steven Spielberg, what the hell, what do you call this other big producer, right? I can't remember his name, but I laughed at him. I said, I'm telling you the truth, how you're truly governed in this thing. But I knew as a young boy that everything was upside down, sideways. And it didn't matter who he selected. They had to follow the guidelines, even on the reserves. I mean, there were some great honorable hereditary chiefs and clan mothers that spoke up and fought against this system and fought against it, trying to put the power back to the people. The people are the true power. And my quest has always been the same thing. There is no Canada. There is no borders. They're all fiction. And at one time, there was thousands and thousands of different tribes or clans or whatever you want to call them, villages scattered all through North America. And they were the same as in Europe. And they were taken over by globalization. And, during the 1990s, I really saw a big kick coming in for university for Indigenous people. And I went, wow, you're going to divide the people again. I saw it coming. Even my children, I went, no, we're not going to play this game. We're all equal. That child is as important to me as you are. And those parents have to take responsibility and accountability. You're not going to, no one man's going to do this. And no woman's going to do it. It's going to have to be you. It was funny this morning. I was quoting, I had a thing about a little dream last night about Jesus Christ. And it was very important. And it was kind of funny. And I woke up this morning and said, Jesus Christ said, do you have the belief? Do you want what you want? You have the real power. That's all he said. And I phoned up Jake Jackson and I told Jake Jackson that this morning. He says, you're not going to believe what I had. Same thing. So it was resonating inside us. We speak spiritually to each other. I had Jay Riddell got a hold of me yesterday. It was a fantastic meeting, fantastic. And he said, listen, I've watched you for 5 years. You came and seen me. You talked to me privately. He says, there's no way we can have an election. I said, no, they own it all. And even if you elect this person, there's no accountability. That person can do whatever he wants. And that's not right without accountability. So I try to educate people that they are the government. The government's not your government. When people go, oh, our government. They're not, they've never been your government. They've been an illusion and a fiction. And they've usurped your freedom and your liberty and your property. And I've watched many people, go along with a loyal title. And I watch it and I listen and I get so frustrated because Vatican's a loyal title. It's all their title. They don't own nothing. And people target, Fauci, they target the Rothschilds, they target all these people at the top level. Those aren't your enemies. They are your enemies. But your enemy is right at your local community. And, we drafted a great constitution. It's a contract. It's an agreement. You can swear on it. You can love it. But I think once you read it, you're going to go, wow, this is fantastic. It puts all the power to you. It puts it's an agreement between each other to respect each other, to not bring harm, to work as individuals, to build your community. It's not rocket science. We have a lawful right to form our type of government or how we want to govern ourselves. We've never been able to do this. And they've been doing this for 30,000 years, 20,000 years. Depends how far you go back in the rabbit hole. But it's our time to rise. And it's our time to speak out there. And it makes me very frustrated, but I see great hope for all the men and women around the world now. I'm having meetings in numerous areas and people are starting to really comprehend it. Yeah, I am the government. So, that's your message. So, you were supposed to be at Camp Hope for this big celebration, of bringing people together. And I know that was sabotaged. If you want to talk about it, you can. You don't have to talk about it. It's up to you. But I think it's very important that you have your voice, right? And it should be open to public debate. And that's the
Mhm.
greatest thing we have is public debate. If you want to talk about it, you can. You don't have to. How you feel that whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? I'm going to say that what happened, why I became a part of weaving in with that is I literally had a vision, and I had this wave of emotion move through my body. I felt it so deeply about unity, unity and rising. And at the same time, people started reaching out to me, all talking about unity, different visions. And because I was moved in this, I knew I needed to speak to this. And so what happened is I began to weave my vision and my voice into that. It didn't fit with everybody else's, and that was okay, because for me, I realize now that it was always about what I was doing there. It was what I was speaking behind the scenes to the different organizers. It was what I was talking about: integrity and honor and accountability. I was essentially, everybody likes this voice when it's trying to point out there at government systems. But as soon as this voice is holding you accountable to grow, to learn, to step in deeper, they don't like that. People don't like that. And I understand that is I understand the or the dynamics of men and women and our ego. I get it. And I'm not immune to this. We all have this. And so I understand that what I spoke to unity, whether I was there or not, I did what I was meant to already, publicly and behind the scenes, because what it did is it shook us and showed us everything that stops us from uniting. It showed people's characters. It showed what people put their words and their actions towards. Does it represent what they said they represent? Who are they? Who they say they are? Who they believe they are? I believe many people believe this. Sorry, my power cord here is many people believe that.
We have a little bit of an interruption here. Can you get back in, Serena? Well, I've never had that before, so she was speaking some really good words there. So hopefully she can get back in here. Yeah, she's going to try to get back in. Here she comes now.
Hi, I don't know where it cut off, so we'll try that again.
Yeah, you got cut off about 30 seconds ago. It's all good.
Okay, yeah. So it comes down to my words did what they were supposed to. Then at that time, what happened was I went through some personal things. The engine on my vehicle went. My house sold, and I needed to secure housing. And I had about a month and a half. I have 2 children. I'm a single mother. So there was just no way I could literally physically be at this event. And I understood that it let a lot of people down. And for me,
Showed you the facts.
that was difficult. Sorry, I'm not sure why I keep flickering here, but for me, that was difficult because I feel that when you step forward in this way, you have a responsibility. You have a responsibility to men and women. You're meant to be the voice for men and women, not your own personal aspirations, but what is best for the betterment of everyone.
Yes.
When you're speaking truths. Mm-hmm. And so for me, it was difficult to let that go.
Can I ask you a question? So, I met with Vlad, Thugs and Masks, is what I call him. And I met with him 5 years ago in Kellyanne Farkas and quite a few of them, right? And I asked him a question. You know, you're out there protesting, but you're not giving any solutions. What's the solution? And Vlad said to me that, he says, well, we're just waking people up right now. They're not ready for a solution yet. And I look at him, strangely, right? And I've watched him for the last 4 years, regurgitating nonsense. The solution is men and women. And the greatest thing that they always hold back, and I call them controlled opposition. And I call them that for one reason, because they don't give the facts. When I watched Rocca Galati in 2011, 2012, and you can watch our video, it's called Canada, a Country Without a Constitution with Dennis Shaw, ex-military. and Reginald Angus argue also Canadian forces, right? And we did a great, Dennis did a great broadcast about the Canadian Constitution that doesn't exist. And I found it very, very disturbing when I explained to them. I said, if we start with the facts, it may wake people up. I look back at the last 5 years, and it really disappoints me that all these events were regurgitated and controlled opposition, and then they were. And Queen's Park, Kellyanne Farkas wouldn't let anybody speak about constitutions, the fact that Canada was not a country, and she intertwined herself in many groups. She had 400 or 500 groups that she owned. And I went, wow, why do we have so many groups when there's only 2 groups there should be? Those who want a solution and those who want to stop globalization. We know the 2 groups. To me, it's so simple. And
I completely agree with that. And that's something I want to say is that, like, something I've been saying is that unity or freedom, these are not flags. These are not slogans. These are not events. They're much more than that. And for that to happen, it has to happen in here.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean by my words did what they were meant to. They shook here to show people, to show men and women what they need to do, because essentially we are holding the keys to the cage that binds us. We are holding the keys.
Yeah.
So for me, coming together wasn't about a convoy. It wasn't about us. It was about men and women realizing that we are the ones who built their systems. We are the ones who operate their systems. We are the ones who continue their systems. We are capable. We can build for ourselves. We can make decisions for ourselves. We need to take the power back into our own hands, but that happens in here and here. That's where it happens. It's mental emancipation.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we are the ones that enslave ourselves now by following this illusion they put forward. And so as soon as I wasn't able, because of other reasons, that the catalyst to these reasons as to why I didn't go, unfortunately, there was doubt that was cast at my name, which showed me other things as well about who we say we are. As soon as somebody needed to cast doubt as why I wasn't going, I was very upfront. I say what I mean, and I mean what I say. That is who I am. And I will be honest every time, even that to my own demise if it's necessary, because I will not lie. And the other thing is, people say that they want matriarchs and they want clan mothers and they want this, but they don't understand what this is. When they had the woman sitting beside them, who's a matriarch, who was planning and organizing, and her voice was dishonored when a knife was put in her back when she walked away, that shows you the relationship. Because I can say it again, we can like the idea of something, but when we actually build the foundation of it, if we don't understand it, we haven't done the work, we will pervert and taint everything we build again. What's the point of rebuilding a system that's already here, that we're already enslaved by?
Yeah.
What is the purpose of that? It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Either go and submit and be a part of the enslavement and continue to perpetuate it, or we build something for us, something real and true, and that is based on natural and sacred law. And we recognize that we are the builders. It happens through us.
Yeah.
It happens through us.
Well, same message, I was invited to go to Camp Hope and speak. And I watched and I observed for 2 months, right? And I said, well, I had Ron Clark in there. We had numerous meetings with Ron Clark and his wife, and they agreed with me. And Ron said he's been misled, deceived for the last 2 years, that, he didn't know nothing about Canada has no constitution, the Charter of Rights and Freedoms are a charter, etc. The entire fraud of their fiction. He didn't know about this, but he's been contacted numerous times. And I said, well, you have the information now. Do some research and present that at Camp Hope. Did they present that? No, they didn't. There was people that came there from constitutional conventions to speak, right? And that wasn't brought up. Political parties, they brought, Maxi and Bernie, the globalist, in to continue with their system, Mark Friesen went in there. He talks a talk about UN Agenda 21, makes it all sound good. But the fundamental problems are, it's their system. Their system's designed to harm us. And I think it's so easy for us to create a system that's not harming us. And that's my message. And that message was never resonated. And every time I was invited to go to Vancouver to speak with Laura and Tyler Thompson, the same thing happened. They don't want the truth being known. And I watched Putis last week. He made a great speech. And I mean, I've always questioned druthers for quite a while. I actually questioned them for 2 years. They promote a lot of the, they educate the facts about the doctors, the nanobioweapons, et cetera, but no solution. They go around in circles, political parties, they push common law, court cases that are going nowhere. They push all these nonsense. My meeting last week was the Asman, and it was, I can't remember the guy's name here in a second here, but they brought me in for a meeting last week, and it was 75 band members around North America. And they asked me a question. There is no courts. I said, there's no courts. You're going to lose all your court cases. There is no courts. There is no justice. So there's no international court. There's no universal court. The whole entire system is a fraud. It's you as an individual that's going to have to put the law back into your own hands. And even Daniel Nagasi, I mean, I spent 2 years throwing information at him, and he did a Zoom broadcast of this presentation about a month ago. I'm going to get him back in again to talk about more. I talked to a professor in the University of Lethbridge. He was in a couple of days ago, Tony Hall, and it was fantastic. I said, do some research. He came in with lots of different questions. We have to reach individuals at an individual level to wake them up. And my message is this: they're not our government if they're trying to kill us. And that's the fundamental facts. And this Indian cowboy, this UNDRIP, Universal Declaration of Indigenous People. I mean, I've done many videos on Indigenous people, and the thing is that Indigenous people is not defined what it means. And I always believe one thing, you're men and women. People go, well, you're not men and women. Well, yeah, you are. You came from a location. There was no difference. And this is honest truth. There was the dialects changed. I mean, in Quebec, there was 9 different dialects of languages. There could have been more, but the languages were similar, and then trading went on. But all these people wanted to do is raise their family, protect their neighbors' children, and live in a community that thrived together. Not hard, not rocket science. And that's what we have to accomplish if we want to create a system that's going to work for everybody. Nobody has the authority to tell you what to do. And people have been brainwashed for so long that the government, they're not your government. They've never been your government. You are the government. And I felt it every time, my tours of traveling. I met some amazing people. Some took 2 years to figure it out. Some took a year. Some took 3 years. But at the end of the day, we've had a lot of people coming in now asking questions. And like I said, it's them that have to do it. And that's what you were doing. We're going to talk about your thing with your meeting with the people of Salmon, if you want to bring that up a little bit, so that can be clarified. I mean, I listened to everything. And if you want to bring that up, I want to, you can tell the people exactly what happened to you. And you can put in your own words. I mean, it's your words.
Yeah, and I do want to say that everything I share because it's for educational purposes. And I share not because I want to contribute to drama. That's not who I am. I don't air things to get like, oh, this is my side. That's not what it's about. It's for educational purposes. I use my story in that way for people to learn from it as well. And so I will speak about what happened with the people of the Salmon, because it's come to my attention that there were things that were being spoken that weren't full truths, and by people whom had every opportunity to ask me. And I always say to people, you want to know where somebody stands and what they stand for, ask them. I invite people, ask me. You don't need to listen to rumors. Ask me and I will tell you. I'm a direct person. So what happened was Papoy had come to, the people of the Salmon had come to the island. I went to go hear them. They were very honoring of me while I was there. It was a beautiful exchange. While I got to hear, I was curious, because that is what I do. I want to hear what everybody's speaking about, what solutions they're bringing forward. I want to see, hear, weigh it in my heart, and see if what is this they're bringing forward, as many of us are doing. And so that is what happened. And then I received an invitation from Papoy. He wanted me to become one of their clan mothers. Well, I want to say first and foremost, I am not a clan mother. I have not been initiated as a clan mother. I am a matriarch. I was initiated as a matriarch. I used the medicine wheel and the teachings of it to support women in their healing journey and in education. Okay, that is the path I walked before coming to this journey and using my voice here as a matriarch. So I needed to know, I needed to go and feel and see what this invitation was he was offering. Did he understand what the invitation was? What was it that his group, I needed to feel what they were speaking and what they were living. I needed to know before I can make any decision ever, I must feel it and weigh it. So I went to Vancouver and I went to sit in on one of their meetings. He brought me up to honor me in front of and those whom I brought with me to stand with me and to listen. I was there to hear. I was content sitting in the back. And so they were very honoring. The elder, that's the word I use. That's not the term he uses. But again, very honoring. I felt sacredness in his words. But when we sat and we talked, and I needed to know, do they understand what a matriarch is? Do they understand what a clan mother is? Never mind if they have the authority, which I recognize, no, they do not have the authority to bring a clan mother to title. What a clan mother is they are the daughter of spirit. They're in relationship with creator. That's not just a title. That's a very sacred thing that I don't take lightly, because that's a sacred role and that's an obligation and a responsibility that one must uphold like any obligation and responsibility. I'm not going to do something for title and prestige. I will not take on a title that cannot be bestowed upon me if it cannot be honored, because now I am not honoring that role and that medicine that is being asked. Do you see? So I needed to know, would they be able to honor the voice of a matriarch, the voice of a clan mother? And from what unfolded in that meeting, some, yes, beautiful medicine and power moving through us in exchange, sacred and natural. But some, they have no idea what a matriarch is and what she brings. There was ego. There were self-aspirations. Anything that is built on self-aspirations will be tainted. And then we are just, that is ego. And I will not use my voice wielded towards someone else's aspirations ever. To my best of my capabilities, I will not.
Well, I agree.
I
'Cause
have a responsibility with my voice, and I understand that in responsibility.
yeah, well, he came and seen me about 3 months ago, and Teresa brought him here. And I'm willing to listen to everybody, right? So he was here for 5 hours. He had supper here, and I asked him some serious questions. So the people of the salmon, what does that mean? And he couldn't really justify what it meant. I said, you're just men and women. So when you put out a thing saying people of the salmon, it's going to divert every single man and woman, because I'm not people of the salmon. We're not salmon. We are men and women. So right away, your name is very, very stringent, to where it's going to deny people to join because they don't want to join that. You're either a man or a woman. And the people of the salmon, they can't claim authority. They're not authority. And that was kind of confusing to me. And then he started pushing the cryptocurrencies, the $20 million he was getting, and this $1 billion that he was going to get through these private banking cartels to take the land. I'm thinking, where are you going with this? I was very, very concerned. I said, I wish you your best. I hope you find the true path. The true path is you're just a man. And you have your right to speak the way you want to speak. But you're not a leader. We're all leaders together. And that's the only way we're going to win. When everybody comprehends that we're all equal, until then, we're all going to lose. Until we can agree that we have to treat each other without harm spiritually, we're all going to lose. And we have to create a system that's based on those fundamental facts. And I wish these groups would all come together, and it frustrates me. We have so many groups, and Karen went to Camp Hope. She's a native lady I know really well, and she went there. We had a private meeting, and before she went, and she's frustrated too, right? The message was not spoken of. Their message was, I call it, profit and ego. People are dying. People are starving. And this affects all of us equally. If one family falls through the cracks, it's damaged us. When one man falls down, it damages. When one woman falls down, it damages us all. We have to pick everybody up to be equal. And if we don't do that, we all fail. And I watch the campaign of selling, products and this kind of stuff. People are losing everything they got, giving their hope into somebody. And all this hope is being destroyed because they keep regurgitating the nonsense. And I call it nonsense. And I'm glad there's many people that do listen to what the men and women I work with. And we're trying to expatiate them to understand they are the true power. We will gain. We're gaining now, but a lot of people becoming more spiritual, comprehending they are the government. No one can tell them what to do. I see many, many communities building. We have to take each community. It's us, the men.
Yeah. There's something I want to say based on what you just said. I just had a profound moment around the words you just spoke, and then some knowledge that came through right after. You said profit. And as soon as you said that word, I received this information saying that is the problem today. That is exactly it right there. Because this is the time of false prophets. And I know you're talking about the word profit in a different way. You're talking financial profit.
The same message.
But absolutely. And that is because at this time, prophet used to be somebody who brought prophecy and sacred knowledge to help guide the people. But we have deviated towards profit being money, the almighty dollar, as the term goes. And so our prophets are false, because now we put stock in false prophecy, which is financial gain and self aspirations, rather than truths that are spoken, no matter how hard they are, truths that are meant to lead people and that are guided and follow natural and sacred law.
I agree. No, the prophet one was very, very, you picked up on that one. That was good. I like that. That's the English language, and they work so in conjunction. And, I study a lot of things, right? And I'm so proud of the people I've worked with over the years that guided me in the path that I'm in. I've never missed a word over my years. I stayed to the truth, and that was very important to me. And I couldn't be bought and paid for. And I always believe that you are the power, and you are the power. And I live by that code. And I mean, even the last 2 years, as I get older, I look at a lot of our youth, what's happening to them. They've lost their meaning. I remember in 1990, 91, when they started pushing the University for Indigenous People. And I think to myself, divide again, divide.
That's right.
I look at the Irish, and, a lot of people don't understand what happened to the Irish people. They talk about colonization, and it's very important for me to make people understand that colonization, the residential school systems, these are all used as vices against us all, because they create emotion.
That's right.
During the pandemic and the Kamloops thing, which was debunked, right? I watched it. They already had shirts made up, the Orange 33 Masonic Lodge members. They pushed it out there to create emotion. When people are emotional, they're stressed out. And I've heard this for many years. It was Louisa Shaw. She's an elder from Newhawk. She'll be 87 years old now. And she says, our children still use the crutch of the residential school system they were never involved in. They have all the opportunities in the world to move forward, to become their own individual person, to become what they're supposed to become. But they've been indoctrinated into universities, and the universities are United Nations public school systems. United Nations teaching you what they want you to believe in, what you want to know. And the only way you're going to rise to power or to get a career, you're going to have to go along with their lies and deceit. And those who take that profit, like you said, the prophecies of the prophet are the money changers, the exchangers. I quoted the thing this morning about Jesus Christ. I don't know why it came to me, but I say it again. Jesus said, do you believe? Do you believe in yourself? Do you have faith in yourself? Those were his words. Nobody can build a church. You got to build it in your heart. Don't listen to anybody else.
I apologize. Go ahead.
No, it's all good. No.
I just wanted to add to what you're saying, because you shared that came to you in a dream, and I didn't share previously when you first shared that, but I also had a dream of Jesus Christ. He had come to me 4 years ago, 3 years ago, pardon me. And I was on a cross. And he said to me, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And he said, I never felt as free as I did when I was there on that cross. And I stopped and I thought, what does he mean? And I was on the cross, and all of a sudden I felt myself.
Yeah.
And it was the first time I could feel me, not all my conditioning, not all my programs, not all my intergenerational trauma, not all these different societal constructs. It was me.
Mhm.
And I realized that that's where freedom begins. And
Yeah.
that's why I've been saying this for a year. I speak about freedom a little different than others because it begins here in our minds, our constructs, our perceptions, our programming, and here in our hearts, where we need to set ourselves free of these things that we enslave ourselves to. That's why the government utilizes and the media in this way to hold us prisoner. Now, I'm not sure I'm fully in alignment with what you said about the residential schools, but what I will say about that, it is absolutely being wielded now as a
Yeah, well,
means
I'll explain it to
to
you.
keep us in trauma. Well, just one second,
Okay.
I want to finish this point, Dallas.
Sure.
It is a means to keep us in our trauma. It is a means to keep, because when we are in trauma, we absolutely are weaker. We're not in connection. We're not in our potential. And we're reliant on these systems, and they can wield us in whatever direction they want to. And they act like they're lifting our voices, but they are not. They are not doing us service. They're keeping us victims, and it is not serving us.
100%. I agree.
That I will.
What I mean by this is that I went to Pelly, Saskatchewan, and I had an interview in 2019 with not Cal Washington, Cal, his name, I can't remember his last name, but I was there for 4 days, 5 days, and I met with two elders, and one elder was 97 and one was 91 or 93. They've been married for years. They were there during the residential school system, and they looked after the originals. They looked after them, and they didn't have that mass destruction. There was many great people that didn't comprehend what was really going on, but they supported, they helped, they loved them. They had no idea what was going on. It was the Northwest Mounted Police that came in. Northwest Mounted Police, not the RCMP, but they called them back then. It was called, and then it was Sam Steele. Sam Steele left there and went to Cranbrook, British Columbia, called Fort Steele. As I researched this parasite, right, they're all in bed together, destroy, right, and harm and set up their fiefdoms, right. But I learned a lot, and even Louisa said, there was many that were harmed. But I look back at it. Oh wow, man! It was the Irish, it was the Scottish, it was the Germans, they were all. I mean, their estimates of 2 million Irish children were hauled over here from age of 4 years old to 7 years old and thrown from down south in the republics all the way up as slaves. And
it doesn't, and this is what I'll say about what you're saying right now. What happened in residential schools did happen. This is the legacy I grew up on. My mom, my aunties, my family, my kukum, my mother, my grandparents. Yeah. This did happen. What you're speaking about with the tribals from the Celtics and the different areas of Europe, absolutely, this happened. And this is what I say about residential schools. Again, something else I speak a little different about in this freedom movement. It was not personal. And I think that's what I hear you saying. It's a tool, it's a tactic, it's strategy. Yes. To dismantle us. We talk about division. You have to first divide the individual right here from their spirit, from their knowing. You inflict trauma and victimhood and hardship. And then here by indoctrinating, but not only that, you're interrupting perception from natural and sacred law of knowing. And you impose this other mainstream, what I call colonial mindset. So colonialism, again, I say, is not a skin color or a group of people. We are all colonized people at one time or another. And I think you're absolutely right in that. This was not personal. No. It was a tactic. And now we're all going through it. This is the legacy for the next generations if we don't do something about it.
I agree 100%. And that's why your message is clear. And that's why I'm proud where you've come. And, you know, I mean, I watched you for 2 months. I watched some of your lives. You know, and a lot of my friends that watch your lives. I can't watch everybody's lives because there's so many great people putting out information. And and then
I
again,
don't know what's going on with my internet, my friend.
you don't like us, eh? That's okay.
Oh, look at that. It's cutting in and out. There we go. Am I back?
No, yeah, you're back. Yeah, it's all good. Like I said, you're recording it. So I mean, it's about communication. And I want you to know that your words of wisdom are good and your path is the right direction as far as I can see, to stand the true path. And the true path is you. And the bottom line is this: we can do this overnight. And I want people to really comprehend how they've been deceived. You know, these protests are great. These events are great, but they haven't worked for the benefit of the people. They distract people. And I'll give you an example. You know, I was with the BC Federation Party, and we started that in 1991, where I was educating people that Canada didn't have a constitution, let alone BC didn't have a constitution. And Ottawa never had authority to govern us. That was our message. And it woke up a few people. We also got, you know, we got destroyed and hammered and called the right, you know, nutcases and, you know, whatever you call right, far, whatever movements, right? But more and more people listened after the years. I remember when Detax Canada came out, and these elders, most of them are passed away now. They were 90, 97 years old when I met with them in Salmon Arm, and I had a great meeting with them. It was a pleasure to sit with them because they were so far advanced and they had such knowledge that they learned that age is such an important age where they have more freedom than we ever thought we had. Even my generation, we had more freedom than you have. And I've watched it over the years and years, less and less freedom. And I said, no. I have the same freedom I was born with. You're not my ruler. You've never been my ruler. I don't vote. And, you know, it was a big risk for me to go into the BC Fed, but Dennis said, you know, you'll be at these platforms, you can speak. I had standing ovations in Port Alberni. 1,700 people stood up and clapped what I said to them. You know, and I spoke in Bowser, and one man stood up at the very front. The whole room was quiet after I spoke for 20 minutes. Just stood there. They didn't know what to say. And one guy got up and stood up and started clapping. He said, man, you nailed her. And I said, no, I didn't nail it. The message is you that have to take it and educate more people. It's every individual has to stand up. And I want people to have the courage to stand together. And stand together means unity of a solution. So when you're at these protests, become the voice of reason. Quit wasting your time on regurgitated nothing. And I'm going to tell you, I wish we had a society where we could have a court. There's no courts. There is no justice. There is no law. We have to restore law and order at our basic level, right at our local community. The power starts with you. It's the power with you that spreads to others to realize their fiction. And most importantly, is that they're harming all of us. They have to take away. A lot of people are jumping up and down. So I'll make a long story about the BC Fed. We watched it, and BC got direct democracy, was 84%. But the lieutenant governor vetoed it. They give you a recall and plebiscite, non-binding, which means nothing. You could have a referendum, like the Clarity Act. You can have a referendum, but it's non-binding. Nothing goes against the Canada Act. Supreme Court of Canada is theirs, and they use a higher one. It's the Roman law, which supersedes all other laws. That's why natural law is so important, or spiritual law. It supersedes all their fictional laws. No man can tell you what to do when it's harming you. They have broken unalienable rights. Every con job, like even the United States Constitution, was not written. It was a Magna Carta. A Magna Carta. It's so hard for people in the United States, and I watch a lot of people go, the United States Constitution is the greatest constitution in the world. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's the greatest constitution or con job or contract that the elite created for themselves to enslave you in debt and enslavement. Gives them the authority, and you have no choice. You know, the president of the United States selects the Superior Court judge of the United States. The governor is selected. They all work in three vices, so they control everything. No different than the Prime Minister in the Corporation of Canada. The Prime Minister selects Superior Court judge, and the Governor General gets his answers or questions or the authority to govern all of us. And I've heard many people for years say we can take them down to the top level. There is no courts. There is no justice. And I've watched them. I've watched the thousands and thousands and thousands of men, women waste their time and their effort and their prophecies on fictional frauds. I watched Dave Lindley in the Bank of Canada. Very important. This message is very important, and I try to get this across to everybody. I watched him with Rocca Galati with the Bank of Canada. Total fraud, total nonsense. Lost the case, which we already knew he'd lose the case. But he made probably millions of dollars in that court case and donations, et cetera, to go nowhere. 5 years ago, I watched him. 4 years ago, I watched him. And me, I've studied bar. I could write the bar exam tomorrow. I studied common law for 30 years. I worked with a straw man for many years, and I listened to what they had to say. I've watched many things, and I looked at all of them. Even Cal Washington, I respected him. I said, Cal, you're teaching a lot of the right things, but you're also going down the path of destruction for the people. There is no equity. There is no trust. We own it all if we take it all back together. And men and women are going to have to decide what they want. If they want to survive what's coming, they're going to have to get organized. They're going to have to build this themselves. We've given you the great pleasure to meet many new people that are doing the same thing. I'm glad that we've come a long ways in the last few years. The faster we get this accomplished, the faster more people won't die, be harmed and destroyed. And, a lot of people have misbeliefs. The white hats and the yellow hats and Trump, these are all psyops. They're designed to keep you going around. Nuremberg 2.0 is nonsense. I'm watching other court cases going on right now. Nonsense. I even watched Mark Christopher put out nonsense, a self-appointed judge, using all this declaration, all this nonsense. I watched Anna Von Rees put out great information.
And this is why I would say, Dallas, this is why I would say it's nonsense. Because I don't disagree with you with this. It's because they haven't thought deep enough into it. They haven't gone deep enough into it to recognize these are the constructs of men and women, and you're trying to use their constructs to hold them accountable. They are a facade, these constructs. They are a perversion. They are corrupted, and they are just a cage. They're constructs. They are not natural. They are not sacred. They do not follow sacred law in any way. They go against it in so many ways. And so I do believe that many who follow this, it comes down to the simple fact is that they have good intentions. Many. There are those who are nefarious, absolutely. But there are those who have good intentions. They just don't know. They don't know. And so they keep perpetuating the systems or the constructs that they were conditioned to, trying to find answers, doing the same thing over and over and over, and expecting a different outcome.
I know. It's like this, I've watched, Stanford V push the Bill of Rights, and I said, there's no court case. Show me the court case. There's no courts. And I've watched it when I was younger, and I've watched it for the last 4 years. And a lot of people are coming in, they're asking what they're going to do now. And I said to them, the same thing I told you for the last 4 years, 5 years, and 20 years. You are the true sovereign. You're a man or a woman. The power belongs to you. You are going to have to take responsibility and the moral street to move out and educate that. Become the true prophet if you want to become the prophet. It's you that has to do it. You have to believe in yourself. You got to find the strength. And the strength is right there. And you're not alone. And I said, there's such amazing. I mean, we run that Zoom room every day from 5 to 10, right? Eastern Standard Time. A lot of people coming in, they ask questions, they're mad, they're angry, they're frustrated. And they're asking what we can do for them. It's not what I can do for you. It's what you can do for yourself. I can't do this
right
alone.
There.
I'll support you. But I can't do it alone. And they have to figure this out. It's got to be them.
And that's why I've said to many people, don't you dare look to me to lead you. Don't you dare get behind me. You get up here and you stand beside me. You take your power back. You find your capabilities. You do what you have to do to be in right relation so that we can do this together, because it's going to take each and every one of us. That's what rise means as well. Rise to your potential.
I asked them a question. I said, you all got Facebook. You can all do lives. Every single one of you. You let somebody else do a live that gives out disinformation or propaganda. I call it propaganda. And they listen to them like followers. Quit following, become the leader, become your own man and woman. Start doing your own videos. Get on there. Your voice is going to resonate. You've had enough. Had enough of this system? We're building a system together. You got to become the voice, and the language is your language. Every person has a different type of tone. I'm an old bastard, so I'm salty, right?
I'm sugar and spice. I'm a
There you
little
go.
bit of both. Sometimes
You know,
I'm not
and you
very
know,
nice.
yeah. So everybody has their own tone, right? And I get frustrated. I get frustrated the fact they're wiping us out, and I see it clearly. I saw it 30 years ago. But this last 5 years has got to bring a lot of people to question what they have to do. It's them. And so if they don't speak up, they don't take control. And hanging flags over top of a ramp and people driving by honking the horns. Seriously, that's not going to help. Not going to help. All these truck drivers that go in these convoys have no message. They're up there waving the Canadian flag. Yes, the Canadian flag brings you together. You're a patriot, etc., etc. But you're missing the real concept. All these truckers should be talking about solutions. They're not sending a message. You can have a great big party, bunch of people together and all celebrate and brings unity and you're around like-minded people. That's fine. But until you leave that meeting with a plan, an objective, you've actually failed. And I'm waiting for Camp Hope, and I'm very frustrated. I haven't even answered Camp Hope, right? As far as I'm concerned, it was a total loss. I see no solution. See a lot of grifters make a lot of money off it. That's what I saw. I seen vlog with boxes and boxes of shirts. I mean, it's just it makes me
For
sad.
me, what I wanted to invest in that was that it wasn't about a 2.0. It wasn't about a convoy. It was about what is the next step. And it was about those who have built towards solutions for the future, whether it be what are you building towards for healthcare? What are you building towards for food security? What are you building towards for education for your children? What are you building towards economically, whether it be barter systems, etc.? What are you building? And helping to bring that together and weave it together to either inspire others to go home and build in that way, or so that they can look and say, this is how I'm doing it. This is how you're doing it. It's because we're building that network now. That is what I wanted to bring, that and speaking about unity so that we could see what still divides us.
Yep, I agree. And it's like this. I've explained to so many men and women. It's the local level. You get rid of these city council members, these mayors that are corrupt, that work for the globalization, that are harming you. And the most important thing is this: once you take control of your local community, you can set up the laws. Very important. We're not going for a logo title. We're going to give the property back to the people. Their properties themselves, the property of your children, to your children old enough to be, that they can go on their own, right? They have to be looked after by the parents. No more indoctrination in the school systems. Very important. Ownership to you. The property belongs to you. The creator created you in his likeness. There you go. He gave you all the skills, become the asset, become the future, and build it. If you don't do that, you fail. Quit following people leading you down the path. And I always say this, after 100 years of voting, has it got us anywhere? No. So forget about the federal governments, forget about the provincial governments, because they're all fictional. And like I always say to everybody, it doesn't matter if you vote, who counts the votes? We all know how that works. They select individuals, put them in there, and those people go along with the same plan. UN Agenda 21, Michelle Rempel in Calgary, he gets up there and talks a good talk, but guess what? She's part of the same clan, right?